This is a trade recap for December 7th, 2023. So there was only one trade today, and let's break down the trade. So the plan was to go ahead and take a long right here. And the reason why I wanted to take this long is because it broke the structure high, right? It broke the structure high right here. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and try to retrace. And the good part about the retrace is that the good thing about the retrace is that it's coming right into a support zone, right? So you'll see the point of the VWAP right here on the blue line that you see here, right? So the plan was to not take the trade right away, right? As you can see, you guys see these numbers right here? These are net deltas, right? So anything that's below the bar that's negative is basically sellers coming in, right? Bringing down the market. Anytime you see the numbers on top of the bar, right? These are buyers, right? So you do not want to start shorting the market when there's a lot of buyers coming in, right? They're hitting the ask here, right? And it's driving up the price, okay? On the 15-minute chart right here, you'll see that it's coming into a gap zone, right? So you'll see these gray boxes that you see here. These are tested gap zones. And I'll explain a little bit more about what the gap zone is. It's basically inefficiency in the market, right? Now you'll see these rectangles where it's extended farthest to the right, and then you'll see these rectangles that are not extended to the right. The difference between the two is that one is a gap zone and the other one is a point of control zones, right? So basically there's liquidity in the market where either A, it'll come back and it's going to try to retest this, right? If sellers are here on the point of control, it's likely going to be contested, right? And then the gap zone is basically an inefficiency in the market where the market auction hasn't cleared that out yet, all right? Now on the 15-minute chart, you'll see it's a bullish swing, right? All the way up. So it's likely what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and retrace. It cannot go up forever, right? So it's going to have to retrace. And the retracement happens to be close to the point of control. Close to the VWAP right here, right? The point of control is up here, and this is value area high. This is value area low. So this is a very discounted market where it's a good entry for a long, right? So I usually trade on the 5-minute chart, right? So this is a 5-minute chart, this is a 1-minute chart, and this is a 15-minute chart, right? So down here, you'll see momentum, right? You'll see that momentum is shifting downwards here a little bit. On the 5-minute, it's definitely dropping, right? And now on the 1-minute, it's basically oversold, right? So you'll all see this second area right here is the volume, right? And then over here, it's basically buyers and sellers, right? So anytime you see blue, it's basically buyers coming in, right? Anytime you see this purple line here, it's basically sellers coming in, right? The higher the number, the bigger the volume, right? So let's get back to the trade here. So basically, this is a good opportunity for a long because this is a trend line. It hit the trend line once, bounce. It's hitting it again now, right? The chances are is that it's likely going to bounce again. This yellow line here is basically the EMA, 21 EMA, Okay. So my thought process is basically I'm looking for a retracement, right? You do not want to buy it at the high. You don't want to buy it where there's a zone. Either it's a gap zone or a point of control zone, right? I have a 1 hour chart over here, right? So these are liquidity zones, right? So basically, the market will want to go ahead and find liquidity, right? That's where the most the most action is going to happen, right? So these are, and they want to take a look at these zones because it wants to go ahead and find liquidity. Most liquidity are either at the high or the low of the chart, right? So I marked them out here. These are just manually placed, right? So let's take a look at this trade here. So my thought process is that after the 825 bar shows up, I want to see delta coming up, right? I want to see buyers in here, right? I also want the sellers, which is the purple here, to kind of decline, right? So right now you'll see that you got some selling pressure here, volume increase, sellers are in control here. Now you'll see that this right here on this bar right here, the sellers are beginning to drop the volume, right? On the 1 minute, you can definitely see that it's declining, right? So as soon as this bar closes, so this is a 5 minute bar, right? At 8:24:59, if the volume is decreasing, right, of sellers, if this is also decreasing of sellers, if this here is oversold, right, this is almost oversold, okay, I'm likely going to take a long, right? So the long would be, target will be right here, right? This is a gap zone, right? Now you'll see that there's an inefficiency here because usually if it goes past this kind of volume profile right here, this is not a lot of traded volume here. So it'll likely come up here and test this area right here because there's not a lot of stuff being traded here. Either it's going to test it, come back, or it's going to go blow right through this, take out the liquidity on the top here, right? So what my plan was to take a long here, put a target right here. And the target is good here in the sense that there's two zones, right? There's a gap zone and then there's a point of control zone, right? So there's going to be some sellers waiting to get out here. Okay, so let's go ahead and play. So let me go ahead and proceed with the trade here. So you'll see went a little bit too far. I have my orders ready here. I'm going to buy two. Initial target will be here. Now, what happens is you can see that there's there's going to be a inefficiency zone that's going to generate as soon as this bar closes, right? So right here. Now I wasn't paying attention to this. What I was trying to do was try to target up here. So as soon as the bar closes, it's going to create an inefficiency zone here, a gap zone, right? So let's go ahead and play it. So I have my order ready. So this is a limit order. So what I want to do is If if the delta is positive, right? Okay. If there's declining sellers, which obviously these lines here are dropping, same here, I'm going to go ahead and take a long, right? My limit order, I have it ready. I have it primed right here, right? So once it hits 859, 58 or 59, I'm going to pull this order up so it fills me in at limit price, right? You could take a buy market if you want, but you're going to get slippage, right? Depending on where how volatile the market is, right? At this point right here, I don't care much about this gap zone here, just because you can see that sellers are not coming in anymore, right? So buyers stepping in, right? So you see positive delta, positive delta, positive delta. And you see that the positive deltas are higher than the negative delta, right? So I'm not too worried about this right here, right? So again, my target would be up here. Now I have an ATM strategy that puts me at 10 ticks, right? So 2 targets, so that's $200, right? Once I place the order, I can always move that target, right? Because as you know, the Nasdaq does move pretty quick. So sometimes, if you don't have an ATM strategy, it sometimes blows past your target and then comes all the way back and retraces, right? So that's why I have a ATM strategy, just in case that happens. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue. All right. So you'll see, again, there's some sellers coming in here, but I'm okay with that because on the 5-minute, on the bigger time frame, right, it's still positive deltas. Okay, let me stop here real quick. So as soon as it triggered, now another important thing is to make sure that the trade's going to go in your favor. You see this yellow line right here? Let me just show that to you guys. So you see this yellow line. This is the point of control, right, of this bar, right? Let me just get the arrow. So right here, this yellow right here, this is the point of control of this bar, right? So what you want to do is you want the close of the bar to be above the point of control of the entry bar. Okay, now if this bar happens to close below this point of control of this bar, I would not take the trade just because most of the action happened above the entry. Okay, so right here you see that this is this close is above this point of control, right? So let's continue. So now, as soon as this happened, 825.01, you see a gap here, right? Now, you also see that volume, seller volumes are decreasing, right? Down here, it's also decreasing, right? Low volume, low sellers here, right? Now, as soon as I saw that, you could ignore this and still hit your target. But normally what I want to happen is when I see a gap zone right here that develops, right? I like to put the entry or the target at the entry of that gap zone, right? I can always come back into this position, right? What I want to see is I want to see what happens when this gap zone gets tested, right? If it blows through this and comes back, I can always take another long, right? So as soon as I see this gap zone, okay, I place the target at the at the beginning of the bearish gap zone right here, right? Now, if this didn't show up, my target would have been right up here. All right. Now, my stop currently, normally, is below the entry, of course, but I would usually put the stop here at the couple ticks below the entry bar. Okay. Again, this is an ATM strategy that just gets me in. I will move the target and the stop depending on what I see on the price action, right? All right, so you'll see that that I will move my target down to the entry of the bearish gap. So let's continue. So I'm going to take this trade. I'm going to exit my position, hopefully right there. Now, what I'm hoping is that depending on what it does with this gap, it's going to react to this, right? Either it's going to blow through this or it's going to reject and come back. Now you'll see that there's a unmitigated point of control on that bar there, right? So let me get the arrow to show you guys this. So right there, there's an unmitigated point of control, right? So these tend to get retested, right? So I'm out of the position. I'm looking for an entry. Well, it depends on what it does here. I like it to clear this gap zone, come back, and test this point of control, right? And then at that time, I'd like to go ahead and take another long here. But as you can see, what's going to happen next is this is going to blow past this, and it's going to take out that top high here, liquidity on the top high. It's going to also blow past this as well, this this point of control zone here, right? Unmitigated zone, right? So the market was very, very, very long here. Okay, so let's watch what happens next. So I'm already out of my position for $130. So this was my only trade for today. So let's see what happens next. So if this didn't show up, it would have been a very nice, a bigger winner, right? So let's continue. I'm just going to fast forward some of this. So you'll see it tested it, right? It tested it right here. You get some rejection, right? So you got some rejection here, this wick here, right? So you got some sellers sitting up here trying to push it back. Okay, so my first impression was there's still some sellers here. But as you can see down here, right, on the 1 minute chart, it's pretty low, right? Now you'll see these things right here, this red, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but that's lower high, low, low, right? So these are indicators that will be published later on this year, right? So I want to see what happens here, right? So it did get a rejection here of this wick, and let's see what happens when the buyers step in, okay? Clear this. Now you'll see there's still positive delta, right? So buyers are still hitting the ask here, right? So it's pretty bullish here, right? So let me just continue on. It's going to go ahead and try to test this fair gap on the 1 minute. Okay, now you see a point of control zone here that's being created on the 1 minute chart, right? So again, everything is bullish here. So again, I wanted to see what happens here. You see that it goes and pushes right through it. Look at that volume here, right? That's a lot of volume pushing through this gap zone. So it's very bullish. Now you're hitting a 21 EMA. Let's see what happens when it tries to react with this. You got a 1 minute EMA here as well. It's being tested. Let's see what happens. Now, what I like to do, if I'm going to take another trade, another long, is I need this gap zone to be cleared, right? I don't want to see sellers coming in. So sellers are still decreasing. Now you see positive buyers here, right? You see these green bars here. These are positive buyers coming in. Right here, positive buyers, right? Positive buyers. So you get another gap zone here. Again, very bullish still, right? Positive delta on the 1 minute, positive delta on the 5 minute. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and try to test this part right here. Again, very, very, very bullish. So now this gap has been basically tested, right? This gap should no longer be an issue, right? So I'm looking now is I'm hoping it comes back, right? I'm hoping it would come back and, test one of these. Again, buyers coming in, green. Okay, sellers are still decreasing. Again, very positive delta, pushing it through. So let me just fast forward this. A lot of transactions happening here, right? Because the point of control of this bar is at the top of the bar, right? But again, you're getting positive delta, so buyers are hitting the ask here, right? It's going to try to go ahead and try to test this. It's going to have to go through two zones, right? This is the gap, bearish gap, right? And then this is the bearish point of control, unmitigated, right? So there's going to be some sellers here. Again, it is still bullish, right? On the 1 minute, positive, positive, positive. So if the gap wasn't there, I'd be adding on to here, right? Just because there's buyers coming in like crazy, right? This is positive. Now it's massively overbought here, right? This momentum indicator, but on the 5 minute, you're okay because it's oversold, right? So depending on which time frame you trade, on the 1 minute, it's overbought. On the 5 minute, it's oversold. So you can still take the trade. Again, look at this. Once this bar closes, positive delta, positive delta. A lot of buyers still pushing this through. Now, I'm waiting for a long here, and unfortunately, it's not gonna come back. It's just gonna break this. Now, if it breaks this zone right here, it's gonna go ahead and take out all the stops up here, right? So this is a very, good zone to take profit if it breaks through all this. Now, I marked it over here on the 1 hour, right? So this is a unmitigated order block, they call this, right? Basically, there's going to be a lot of stops, right? A lot of sellers here, right? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to push it, take out all these stops up here. Now, there's some bunch of rejections coming up here. Again, still bullish. Okay, so it touched the zone, right? So you'll see that the zone is now grayed out. So it's been tested, right? So now what happens when it gets tested? Is it gonna go back, or is it going to buyers just gonna push it? And as you can see, look at the deltas on this, right? just massive volumes here, right? Again, positive, positive, positive. Let me fast forward. So eventually, what happens is it breaks all the zones, take out the liquidity at the top. So if you want to take a trade here, right, you would want to wait for this to come back and test this gap zone here, right? Again, so take a look at this. Again, still just positive delta on a 15-minute, right? Positive delta, right? So you're not going to take a short here. So eventually you'll see that it takes out the top here, and then it's going to go sideways, right? It's going to take all the liquidity on the top here. So let me fast forward to this. I've extended the liquidity zone, so there's going to be a lot of reaction up here. Now the reaction up here also has on a 1 minute, a gap point of control zone here. Right? It's going to see if it's going to go ahead and try to test that. Yep, it hit it right here. So my expectation is that I'm looking for a short. It cleared out all these orders up here. So now if I was going to take a trade, my thought process is that I needed to go ahead and drop. Now, unfortunately, it didn't happen. There wasn't an entry here on the short. So that's it. That's the trade recap for Thursday, December 7th. Okay. If you guys want to see how all this stuff works in real time, I'll be streaming real time Monday to Friday, so that you guys can see this in action in real time versus me having to kind of go back and kind of review the action. All right, hope that was helpful.